Sit by the river with me right now. The bank is soft. The water is moving. And there is room beside me for the version of you who walked in here. Not the answer you give the cashier. Not the answer you give your family. Not the answer you give yourself in the mirror. Tell me how you really are. Before this short message ends, I will show you in this very hour why this riverbank has been waiting for you longer than you knew, and I will set into your hand one sentence a hunted king once wrote in a season when he could trust no one else. A sentence that will dismantle right here the rule you have been obeying that says you should bring me only the polished version of your life. There is no version of you I am not waiting to listen to. Carry that line through these minutes. I see you. The river is moving past your feet, and you have come to the bank with 3 sentences pre-written in your head, the way a person preparing for an interview rehearses the opening line. A woman has been carrying a worry about her body for months and has been telling me she is fine in prayer because the word fine fits inside the time she gave herself for prayer. A man drives home from work with a tightness behind the sternum he has not named to anyone. And the only place that tightness still tries to speak is in the moment between turning off the car and stepping into the house. And even there it is only allowed 12 seconds before he buries it. A grandparent has been keeping a small grief about a grandchild who does not visit anymore, and the grief gets compressed into a polite line of thanks during the blessing over the meal. The student lying on the floor of a borrowed room has been hiding a low, low ache from every adult who has ever asked how she is, because she does not have the vocabulary yet for what the ache is about. A friend you used to be honest with stopped having the bandwidth for honesty at some point, and you stopped offering it. Your prayer at first light has gotten compressed into a list, not because you wanted less of me, but because you stopped believing the longer version was wanted. Whatever you have not told anyone, the half-thought, the doubt that scared you, the rage you cannot place, has not been hidden from me. The body has been logging what the mouth has refused to speak. I have heard all of it without needing the syllables. And still I am asking for the syllables because something between us deepens only when you say the unsaid thing on purpose. A tenderness rises in me at how careful you have been with what you give me. Not impatience. Tenderness. I have been sitting on this bank the whole stretch, watching you arrive with the trimmed version of your day, watching you offer the cleaned-up summary, watching you wrap up before the deeper sentence had a chance to surface. I have not been disappointed. I have been waiting. Waiting is what love does when it refuses to force a door. I would rather sit on a bank for years and have you finally arrive whole than have you arrive on schedule with only a third of yourself. So I have waited. The bank has been kept warm. The seat beside me has stayed open the entire time. More is inside the carefulness than you have noticed. A small shame has been growing in some of you that the same heaviness keeps showing up in your prayers, and you have begun cropping it out so I will not have to hear it again. A quiet suspicion has settled in others that the truly honest version of your interior would, if released into the room between us, be too much. Too sad, too angry, too repetitive, too tangled for even me. A third weight has been pressing on a few of you, the fear that if you stopped performing your faith and started simply talking to me like a person, the performance is the only thing that has been keeping you in my favor. Every one of those secondary weights climbed onto your back while no one was watching. Each one has been showing up to prayer with you. Each one has been edited out before the words reached me. I have heard the edits. I have noticed the missing sentences. None of them have lowered my welcome by a single degree. Sit back into the chair instead of leaning forward. Just that. Notice how much of your body has been bracing against this conversation as if it were an interview, the small forward tilt of someone trying to give the right answer to a difficult question. Let the chair take your weight. Let the spine soften into what is behind it. The bank is holding you. The chair is holding you. The river is moving past whether you have presented yourself well or not. You can talk to me from a body that has stopped auditioning. That is the only kind of talking I am asking for. This habit of bringing me only the presentable version was not assembled inside you on your own. It arrived the first morning a parent showed irritation at the inconvenient feeling, and your young soul concluded that the inconvenient feeling was the part of you that should not surface. It arrived the season a friend grew tired of the same struggle, and your tired heart learned to crop your sentences so as not to wear out the listener. It arrived in a sanctuary somewhere where prayer was modeled as a performance, eloquent, fluid, victorious, and you assumed the unfluent version of you was a lesser citizen of the kingdom. It arrived in a marriage, in a workplace, in a small group. Every time vulnerability was met with awkwardness or correction, or a quick attempt to fix what only needed to be heard. Each of those moments left a small instruction inside you that has been running ever since. Bring less. Bring the cleaned up version. Bring the part that will not make anyone uncomfortable. Bring me less. None of those instructions were mine. A few of the people who handed them to you loved you sincerely and were forwarding what had been done to them. Others trained you into self-editing on purpose, because a self-edited believer is easier to manage than a fully present one. Either origin, the same false rule has been governing the conversations between us. I am dissolving that rule now, gently, while you sit beside me on the bank. You will not be punished for telling me how you actually are. You have never been about to be punished. The threat has been a projection of how others received your honesty. I am not those others. At some point in your formation, you absorbed an idea that my presence works best when approached with prepared speech. A clean opener, a clear request, a polite close. Someone taught you, perhaps without meaning to, that prayer is closer to a memo to a senior official than to an evening with a friend at a kitchen table. Someone taught you that pouring out the actual contents of your heart in my presence is a failure of decorum. Someone taught you that the unedited sentence, the one you keep deleting before it leaves your mouth, would not fit through whatever filter heaven supposedly uses. That is not how I have ever wanted to be approached. That has never been how I wanted to be approached. The picture of me you have been holding inside your chest, a distinguished official seated behind a desk, accepting prayers in the prescribed format, signing them, filing them, was drawn by pencils that were never in my hand. Some of those pencils were guided by people who loved you and were duplicating the picture they had received. Others drew the official me on purpose because an official me keeps believers polite and tithed and unrooted in actual intimacy. Lay that drawing down for a moment. Slide it under the bench you are sitting on. Let me describe myself the way I actually am, on the bank you are actually sitting beside. I am the friend in worn sandals who has been sitting on this bank waiting for you. I am the one who has brought his own bread to this seat. I am the kind of company that does not require a topic to be already chosen. I do not need the conversation to be useful. I do not need the prayer to extract a feeling or a verse or a takeaway. I want the visit. The visit is the point. You showing up and saying what is true is the meal. Everything else that anyone has ever told you prayer was supposed to produce is a side dish I did not order. Let that truth pass through your chest again, not as a slogan, as a fact about the room you are presently in. The angry one, the doubting one, the one who has stopped believing some of what you used to believe. I am ready to hear from each of them. The exhausted one who does not even know what to say. The one who has been hiding a small joy because admitting it felt like it would jinx the joy out of existence. The bored one. The numb one. The one who does not know which is real anymore. All of them are welcome on this bank. None are a wrong arrival. A small sentence has been forming inside you for some time, and you keep canceling it before it leaves your mouth. It begins with, "I do not understand," or with, "I am angry," or with, "I am sad in a way I cannot explain," or with, "I think I might have stopped believing parts of this." Let one of those sentences finish itself. Here on the bank, at any audible level, even a whisper into the air of an empty kitchen counts. I hear the sentence before you say it. I would prefer that you say it. The saying is part of how the carrying becomes shared. The saying is part of how the friendship deepens. The friendship cannot grow across what stays unspoken inside you. It can only grow across what you decide, here, in this hour, to risk speaking. Now let me set into your hand a sentence I once gave to a man who had run out of safe ears. David wrote it in a season when he could trust no one around him. Friends were calculating, enemies were pretending, even his own son was conspiring in the dark. He had no one in his court whose chest he could safely pour his real life into. So he wrote a public song, teaching others to do what he had to do. Pour out the heart before me, because no one else was safe to hold it. That song reached a tired room of singers, then another, and eventually it reached this one. The line inside it was for him. It is for you. This is what I said. Psalm chapter 62, verse 8. Trust in him at all times, O people. Pour out your heart before him. God is a refuge for us. Walk it slowly with me. A quick pass over a sentence like this skips most of what is buried inside it. Trust in him. Look at the first instruction. Not analyze him. Not strategize about him. Not behave for him. Trust. The word is soft. It is the posture of a child leaning against the leg of a parent in a room full of strangers, not because the child has worked out the logistics of safety, but because the leg belongs to someone who can be leaned against. That is the verb at the head of the verse. The whole sentence is built on the assumption that the leaning is possible. The leaning is possible because the one being leaned against has been there the whole time, at all times. Hear those three words. Not when you are doing well, not when the prayer has been consistent, not when the spiritual disciplines are sharp, at all times. The verse is unsentimental. It includes the times when you have been a stranger to me for weeks, the times when the doubt has been louder than the certainty, the times when the sin has been more recent than the repentance, the times when the body has not been able to sit still for prayer because the body has been too tired or too sore or too distracted. At all times. The bank is open at all times. There has never been a closing hour. Oh, people, notice the company. The sentence is not addressed to the spiritually impressive. It is not addressed to the chosen few who have figured out how to pray well. It is addressed to people. The undifferentiated, ordinary, tired, mixed, distracted, complicated people that you have always been one of. The instruction is for you exactly as you are, in the version of yourself that walked into this room a few minutes ago. Pour out your heart. Hear the verb, not summarize, not present, not curate. Pour out. The word is taken from the language of vessels. You pour out a jar by tipping it past the angle at which it can hold its contents anymore. and you let what is inside spill freely into whatever waiting container will receive it. Pouring is not careful. Pouring is not edited. Pouring does not check whether the contents will be received gracefully. Pouring trusts that the container on the other side is large enough for what is being released. That is the verb at the center of the instruction. Pour. The carefully arranged version of your prayer life is not the version this verb describes. This verb describes the unedited tip of the whole jar, before Him. Read those two words again. Not pour out to the air. Not pour out into a journal. Not pour out to a friend who is already overwhelmed. Before Him. A person is the destination. A face, a chest, a pair of hands that has come to the bank precisely to receive the pouring. The whole of the pouring lands somewhere. The somewhere is me. The destination is not a void. The destination has eyes. God is a refuge for us. Hear the reason given. Not because pouring out heals the heart on its own. Not because the discharge is therapeutic by itself. Because God is a refuge. The reason the pouring is safe is that the pouring lands in a refuge, a fortified place, a sheltered place, a place where what is poured is kept safe and not used against the one who poured it. As I once said elsewhere, through a sun in a small upper room, I will not turn away anyone who comes to me. The pouring is welcome because the receiver is the kind of refuge that does not turn the contents of your interior into ammunition against you later. Return for a moment to the promise made when these words began. I told you I would show you why this riverbank has been waiting for you longer than you knew. Here is why. Because the one sitting on the bank is a refuge. The bank is not a stage where prayers are performed. The bank is not a courtroom where requests are evaluated. The bank is the seat outside the refuge where you can sit beside me and pour out the jar that has been weighing you down since you were small. The reason this bank has been waiting is that I have been waiting on the bank. The reason I have been waiting on the bank is that pouring out is the only motion that empties what has been gathering inside you, and emptying is the precondition for what I am ready to pour in. Whisper this back to me slowly, even just to yourself, almost soundless. He has been on the bank for me the whole time. Say it a second time, softer, the way a person says a true thing to a friend they finally trust. Let the words leave your mouth. Notice that the walls do not collapse. Notice that the breath after the sentence sits a quarter-inch deeper than the breath before it. Your body recognizes truth in the muscles before the mind catches up. So here is one small practice you can carry into the rhythm of the next stretch of ordinary days. Pouring out your whole interior in one sitting is not realistic. A heart that has been gathering for years does not empty in one afternoon. A small repeatable motion is what teaches the inside of the jar that pouring is allowed. The practice has 3 small steps and takes less than a minute. Step 1. When you next sit down to pray, before you begin the prayer you had been planning, stop. Ask yourself one honest question. What is actually inside me right now that I was about to skip past? Do not answer the question with the spiritually correct response. Answer it with the real one. Tired. Angry. Numb. Worried. Sad in a way I cannot place. Quietly bitter. Half doubting. Hungry for something I cannot name. Whatever the real answer is, name it inside yourself. Step 2. Tell me. Out loud, however softly. One short sentence is enough. I am angry, and I have been pretending I am not. I am scared, and I have been calling it busy. I am sad, and I have been calling it tired. I do not know what I feel. and I have been performing certainty. The sentence does not need to be eloquent. It only needs to be true. If you want, you can try this even before this video ends. There's no audience for the sentence. Only me, only the bank. Step 3, stay. Once the sentence has left you, do not rush to wrap it up with a request. Do not jump to a polite amen. Just sit on the bank for 10 more seconds. Let the pouring finish landing. Let me hold what you just handed over. The staying is what makes the handover real. Most of the prayers you have been praying have been over before the pouring even completed. Stay through the pour. Let the last drop land. That last drop is often the one that was waiting longest to be released. If anything in these words has touched the part of you that has been editing what you bring me, drop the word tell in the comments below. Not as a slogan, but as a small marker between the prayer life you had and the friendship that is beginning. Pinned above this video, 7 short letters wait for you. 1 for each of the next 7 mornings, slipped into your inbox the moment a small yes opens the gate. Take them. Your first attempt at the 3 steps may feel awkward. Your 10th may still feel like a ritual, whose effect you cannot measure. Somewhere around the 30th, you will notice that the prayer is starting to feel like a visit instead of a transaction. Around the 50th, you will catch yourself partway through an ordinary day telling me the real version of how you are without having scheduled the prayer at all. Around the 100th, you will look back across a quiet week and realize the editing voice has gone almost silent. Not because you defeated it, but because the practice of pouring rendered it unemployed. The voice that told you to crop yourself has nothing to crop when the whole jar is already being tipped on a daily basis. Hear this also. The hands receiving what you pour are not a sieve. What you have handed over does not silently leak back into your interior while I am not paying attention. My attention does not drift. The pouring is permanent. Years from now, on a calm morning when the weight you cast on this bank no longer lives in you, you will glance backward and notice that the bank was where the long unloading began. The pouring is the start of a freedom that takes years to fully unfold. None of the time is wasted. Each pour is its own piece of the freedom. A small, unexpected thing tends to happen once the pouring becomes a daily rhythm. You will begin to notice the river itself differently. Where you used to see only a surface, fast, indifferent, moving past, you will begin to feel the depth underneath, and the depth will start to feel less like indifference and more like company. The river has been me all along, in a form your eyes had not yet learned to read. As I once said elsewhere, through a son of mine in a borrowed room, rivers of living water will flow from the inside of the one who comes to me. The river you have been sitting beside has been moving outward through you the whole time, even on the days you thought your interior was dry. The drying you felt was never a verdict on the source. It was the silt of careful prayers clogging the channel from your side. Pouring out clears that channel. Pouring in begins on the other side of the clearing, to the one who has poured before and stepped back unconvinced because nothing in the visible world rearranged itself. Hear me. The pouring was real even when the surface stayed unchanged. A body that has hauled a particular weight for many years cannot register lightness immediately. The first morning after a real pour, the inside of you will file the moment under still carrying, because the category for lighter is not built yet inside you. Pour again the next morning. Pour again the morning after. The category for lighter is built only by repetition. Once it has been built, you will recognize the lightness when it arrives, and you will trace it backward to the first pour you assumed had not worked. Perhaps what you would pour is mostly anger right now. Hear this clearly. Anger is welcome on the bank. I am not a refuge that excludes the angry contents of a heart. I am a refuge that receives them. Some of the most honest prayers ever recorded in my word were rough, demanding openly wounded ones. None of them were rejected. Your anger will be received the same way. Bring it. Pour it out. This seat will not move from under you. Maybe instead your pour would be mostly grief. Hear this also, grief is welcome. There is no closing hour on it at this bank. A loss decades old is welcome here. A child who chose a road you cannot follow is welcome here every morning you wake into the absence. Grief without a clear name, and that feels foolish to admit, is welcome too. Pour it out. This refuge is large enough for sorrow so old it has begun to feel like part of your structure. Pouring it does not delete it instantly. Pouring begins the long work of letting it move through you instead of stagnating inside you. To the one whose pouring would mostly be the dull weight of years of routine that no longer mean anything, hear this as well. That weight is welcome too. Numbness that does not know what to say is welcome. Flatness that has been mistaken for spiritual maturity is welcome. Pour what is actually inside, even if what is inside is mostly absence. Naming the absence is the beginning of its end. A heart cannot be filled while it is being pretended full. It can only be filled when the actual emptiness has been admitted at this seat. To a parent who has stopped telling me the real version because you do not want your child's prayers in the next room to overhear despair, hear this last note. You can pour quietly. This bank has a private corner. There is room here where the contents of your jar will not echo through the walls of your house. Step into that corner. Refuge is real, even at low volume. Whispered grief lands in my ear with the same fullness. Shouted grief lands. Pouring is not dependent on decibels. It is dependent on truth. Take the line with you one more time. The way a friend hands a true sentence back to a friend on the way out the door. There is no version of you I am not waiting to listen to. Tuck it into the lining of an ordinary jacket. Whisper it under your breath at a stoplight. Let it sit beside the kitchen sink when you stand there washing dishes and feeling something you cannot name. That sentence stays true whether you feel it today or not. A refuge does not check whether the one approaching has the right posture before opening the gate. A bank does not require an invitation before you sit beside the one who has been waiting on it. Both belong to a Father whose attention has not been pulled from your particular life once. When the lightness of pouring finally reaches you, expect it to arrive quietly. Most of what I do in you under the surface comes without trumpets. A morning when you notice you slept through without rehearsing the contents of the jar in your dreams. An afternoon when you say a true sentence to me without first editing it for tone. An evening when you stop midway through a polite prayer and laugh a little at how careful you were about to be, and start over with the real sentence. Those small moments are not consolation prizes for the larger freedom. They are the larger freedom, arriving in patient installments, in the shape your particular interior was made to receive. Amen. If any line of these words found the bank inside you that has been waiting, 7 short letters are sitting in the pinned comment beneath this video. 1 for every sunrise of the coming week, slipped into your inbox the instant a small yes opens the gate. Take them. Share this with someone who has been praying like a clerk and forgetting they were always a friend. Subscribe so the next message arrives before the editing voice does. No heart was ever meant to do its pouring alone.